Welcome to the City Considers at Davis Media Access. I'm Autumn Labbe-Renault. This is a program where we take a look at some of the people and programs behind city government in Davis, California. And joining me today is Dana Bailey, who's the director of the city's Social Services and Housing Department. On the job since May of 2022, Dana brought with her over 20 years' experience serving vulnerable populations and managing affordable housing and homelessness services in several California communities. Today, we'll be focusing on her work and the city's work in general to address the homelessness crisis in Davis. Dana, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, your position really evolved out of community-wide discussions about reimagining public safety here in Davis, specifically about diverting those with mental illnesses or those who are unhoused and without those services away from interactions with the police. We're now about 18 months into your tenure in this position, and I'm curious what has changed since you came on board, and how is that facilitating that diversion of services working?
Sure. So I have to say the first thing that drew me to Davis was really the compassion of the community and its decision and council's decision to stand up a department that would focus really hard on homelessness and housing and making sure that we're serving the most at-risk people in the community. So having that foundation, the foundation of council support, the foundation of interest and willingness to address the issue in the community really made a big difference for what we've been
Mhm.
able to accomplish for the last 18 months.
Okay, can we talk about some of those accomplishments? Tell us what you've been working on during that time.
I guess the biggest accomplishment was really the establishment of the department. The mission of the
Right.
department is to create an equitable social services and affordable housing program and policies for low income residents, especially those experiencing homelessness. We've
Mhm.
had the opportunity, once I was brought into the position, we've brought on an affordable housing manager that's really going to be charged with looking at how we address housing affordability in Davis, be that with our existing affordable rental and for sale housing or with new projects. We've also brought on our homeless outreach team. We've expanded our homeless outreach team. We've got two people that have come on board to help us to go out to encampments and to engage with our homeless population to make sure that we're diverting them to our daytime respite center and to our other
Mhm.
partners in the community. And we've also brought on new partners. Downtown Street Team is a really exciting program that's been introduced to Davis. They are an employment program for people that are unhoused. And what they do is they teach them life skills, give them an opportunity to engage and get case management. And as they gain those skills, they help them to find more permanent employment in the community. So those are some of the accomplishments that we've achieved.
Great. You mentioned the respite center, and you know I'm going to talk about that because that's how you and I actually first met, and that was when we organized a meeting of several local businesses along Fifth Street, around the corner from the respite center. Chief of Police Pytel, some other representatives from the police, and yourself, and council members Gloria Partida and Donna Neville, and that was quite a meeting. I learned a great deal that day about some of the contributing factors to the increase in homelessness in our community. And I also learned a bit about the respite center itself and the city's plan moving forward. So let me kind of take those one by one. As you know, Davis Media Access has experienced a real uptick in issues related to vagrancy, and we've had a lot of vandalism on our site. And that meeting we had was really kind of eye opening from the perspective of learning about, for example, how state laws making drug possession misdemeanor instead of felony have greatly escalated the drug problem, which contributes to the problem of people being unhoused. So it's there's a lot of issues. They're complicated. They're connected. And I'll be honest, as you know, those of us living in proximity to the respite center or working, running a business, have really been struggling with some of these issues. Let's talk about the city's plan. First, let's talk about the respite center, kind of its history and its trajectory. And then you, at that meeting that day, you talked about some of the city's plans moving forward. So if we could take those questions in that turn, kind of where we've been and where we're headed with this, with the respite center.
Sure. Well, it was really forward thinking for council and the community to really establish a respite center. The respite center's purpose is to serve as essentially a navigation hub for people that are
Mhm.
experiencing homelessness. And not only do they get a chance to come there and really do exactly what's in the name, take a respite from the street, from their experiences, come in, have an opportunity to get showered, to do laundry, to get fed. All of those things can happen at the respite center. But the most important thing that happens at the respite center is a connection to services. The
Mhm.
ultimate goal for the city and for all of the other homeless services providers in the area is to get someone from the street into some form of housing. That's the
Mhm.
primary goal. The thing that Davis faces that is really not unique to Davis, we're seeing this all over the region and all over the state, is that housing affordability has had a huge impact on the numbers of people that are out on the street. Once they are on the street, they're more prone to having access to drugs and other substances. And we're also seeing more people that have really challenging mental health issues. It's a
Yeah.
cycle of trauma that people are experiencing when they're out on the street. And being out on the street just does not help. So for us here in Davis, having the opportunity for people to come to the respite center where they can be seen by professional staff who can put them
Mhm.
in touch with uh, mental health professionals, with physical health professionals, and with caseworkers, that can make a huge difference in the way someone is navigated out of homelessness.
Right.
Unfortunately, we're working with people. People don't always make the kind of choices that we would choose for ourselves, especially if they're grappling with other issues that make it even harder to make really good decisions. I tell people often in homeless outreach, we know it takes anywhere between 8 and 10 attempts before someone will even take the time to talk with us. It takes a while to build trust, but once we can do that, and we can offer people choices as far as where they can go in the community to be connected to services, either at the respite center or through Paul's Place, which is another
Mhm.
location operated by Davis Community Meals and Housing, or through our outreach process. If we can, the more people we can connect, the more we can have an impact on what's happening in our community. So respite it's a challenge. We know that
Yeah.
it's challenging for the neighbors. My understanding and having I'm new to Davis, but my understanding is that that area, or at least that corner, with its access to the businesses that are easily you can go buy a bottle of beer or a slice of pizza or all these amenities that you can get there. That area has been kind of challenging, but
Yeah.
we are working very closely, mostly with the respite staff, to make sure that we're counseling people that, come inside, let us talk with you and figure out a way to
Mhm.
kind of help you to change the trajectory of where you are. And then if we can't convince people that that's where they want to be, we will work with law enforcement to kind of inform them about, we there really are rules and there are ways that we expect you to behave in society, and in
Right.
this community. So we'd like you to comply with that. So between those two approaches, we're really hoping to make a difference in what the neighborhood experiences, what the businesses in the area experiences, but more than that, people with that lived experience, what they experience.
When we had that community meeting I referenced earlier, one of the things you mentioned was conducting some community stakeholder meetings around the respite center. I believe in 2024. Can you talk about that a little bit? What might that process look like?
Absolutely. So right now, the city is in the process of updating its homeless strategic plan. Some of you might have participated in the 2019 plan.
Mhm.
Some Davis organizations, Dove in particular, Davis Opportunity Village, really came together to come up with a 3-year plan on how we could address unhoused folks in Davis. And so they set a number of goals. Some of those goals were accomplished, including helping to establish the department. But now it's time to renew that homeless strategic plan. So we are in the process of renewing our homeless strategic plan. We're working with a consultant, and that consultant is going to help us to go out into the community to talk to stakeholders and to talk specifically to the neighborhoods that are impacted by homelessness and with
Mhm.
other organizations that are impacted by homelessness. So we've been talking recently with the Davis Manor Neighborhood Association, wanting to come back to them, talk more about what their experiences are, how we can, and what we can do to change what their experience is if it hasn't been that great, or improve it, or build partnerships. So, as a part of our homeless strategic planning process, we are going to be conducting a number of outreach activities to the community so people have an opportunity to tell us what they're experiencing, what they'd like to see happen, and then how do we put those goals into action? What does it look like out in the community? We don't want this plan to sit on a shelf somewhere that looks nice and pretty. We actually want it to be actionable out in the community, so
Right.
people feel like they're invested in this, and that they can see that the city is making progress toward addressing this.
That's good to hear, and I imagine that those meetings moving forward are really directly a result of you being on board and the department being established. I know that I do believe it was 2019. Um, Representatives of DMA attended a community stakeholder meeting to basically ask how we felt about the respite center being located there. And my understanding was that um, it was located in its current position on L Street, or in the alley and on L Street, um, because it needed things. The focus of the homeless community needed to move away from the downtown businesses who had really been experiencing a lot of problems downtown. But the city, my understanding is the city is not planning on relocating the respite center again. Is that correct? The plan is for it to stay where it is.
That's correct. And here's the reason why. Primarily, it's located on a site that the city owns. So we have
Mhm.
site control there. So we don't have to worry about whether or not we have to always be finding different locations. Having site control makes a huge difference in our ability to tell an operator, no, you can get established there and you can offer long-term services. The other thing is it's centrally located. It's easy
Mhm.
to get to that location from anywhere in town. So it's on a bus line. It's easily found. You know, these are all things that we want to limit the number of barriers to entry there are for people that are experiencing homelessness. So we don't have any intention of relocating the respite center. We believe that is the site where we'll be conducting those services. But ultimately, it really is up to council to make that decision.
Mhm.
But I know that once I came on board, that it was explained to me that after a lot of research, a lot of trial
Right.
and error, that was the location that they decided the respite center would be.
I have a lot of compassion for how layered and nuanced this and challenging your work is. And as a business, someone who runs a business on Fifth Street, and you know this, Dana, we've had a lot of we have had to file a lot of police reports, and we've had a lot of incidents on the property there this last year. So if a business owner or a community member who lives on L Street, for example, is experiencing problems, there is a protocol. Let's talk about who should they call, where should
Mhm.
they call, and how do they make the determination of what the right place is to call?
Sure. Well, I'll start by saying, one, even though the community has a lot of compassion and they're empathetic, it can be frustrating. We
Yeah.
understand that there's a lot of frustration related to some of the behaviors that they're seeing, and it's scary for folks. But
Mhm.
we're always clear that homelessness is not a crime; it's a condition, and it's a temporary condition. That with some support, we can help people to move out of that. So, first, it's not criminal behavior. If it is criminal behavior, and there's some behaviors are criminal, it's always appropriate to call public safety and ask them to
Mhm.
intervene. That's what we ask folks to do first. If you see something that feels dangerous or does it looks like it's a threat to safety, the first thing you do is call the police department. That's what we would do because we want our
Mhm.
staff to be safe and we want the person that we're working with to also be safe. So that's the first thing. There are opportunities for us to work with businesses and with neighborhoods. So you can always send an email to the homeless outreach line, and one of us, either our homeless outreach team or me, myself, will reach back out to you to find out exactly what the situation is and what options we have to deal with those situations. Oftentimes, we'll deploy our homeless outreach team out to a location where people have seen someone that is obviously in some form of trouble, get an opportunity to establish a relationship, and oftentimes we can connect them for services and kind of diffuse the
Mhm.
situation. If it's a business, there are things that public safety can do to work with you. Our police department has an environmental review. It's called a SEPTED, where they can come out to your business. They'll come out and take a look at what's happening around your business. They'll look at the property. They'll make suggestions on things that you can do to improve safety there and improve the environment there to make it better for your employees. And that's another thing, another option that we can deploy. And finally, if necessary, you can always file a no trespass letter with the police department. So if someone is consistently on your property and it's private property, then you can
Mhm.
file a letter with the police department. And with having that trespass letter, gives them an opportunity to engage with that person and either um, induce compliance or undertake some form of enforcement. And so
Okay.
what we really want to do is take a twofold approach. The first approach is sending out our outreach team to offer support, offer help, connection to services. That's always our first inclination. And then if we are not getting those, then we work with public safety to say we've tried this opportunity, we may need some assistance here, and have them come alongside us to help. So that's pretty much the process. If you are an individual and you really as an individual want to do something or would like to know how to approach it, you can always reach out to outreach and we can talk with you. If you're a
Mhm.
business, we can put you in touch with public safety and they can talk with you about what you can do with your business.
Yeah. I recently navigated that SEPTED process you mentioned on behalf of Davis Media Access, and it was helpful. And it was helpful in giving us some language. We have a large volunteer community, so it was helpful in providing some language and understanding of when do you call the business line versus when you call 911. And basically, the difference there is: are you in imminent danger? Do you feel like someone is in imminent danger? Call 911, no question about it. And there were other things that could be handled more through the business line. So having acknowledged how difficult this work is, I mean, Dana, it really is challenging. How do you know when you've moved the needle, so to speak? What does success look like here?
Absolutely. For us, it's an easy gauge. How many people are connected to housing? How many people have been connected to services? How many
Hmm.
people are on a path to making improvement in their life? And, it really is great to have community partners that are helping the city with all of that. I mentioned earlier Davis Community Meals and Housing. The the their signature project right now, Paul's Place, which is transitional housing and permanent housing for people that are unhoused. Having them create additional housing support is huge. It makes a huge difference in how we can address folks that are experiencing homelessness, and having them as a partner is huge. Working with Communicare, who operates our respite center, that's been a boon as well. Having them talk with our folks, get them connected to services makes a huge difference. Uh, the work that Downtown Streets team is doing in our
Hmm.
downtown area to work with people to really motivate them to be a part of the community and to make them proud of the community and what they're doing for the community. That's been a real motivator for all of us, seeing what people can accomplish with a little support. And then the connections that we have with our regional partners through the Homeless Poverty Action Committee, that's the HPAC, that's our continuum of care. I'm working with
Hmm.
them as they embark on our point in time count, and that's our annual homeless census, and then working with them to receive resources to deploy back into the community, and partnering with county and county behavioral health. All of that has made a really big difference in how the city is addressing homelessness and what people with lived experiences are telling us they're receiving in that
Hmm.
process. They now know where to go, who to talk to, and they've got people that understand their journey, and they're right here in town, and that makes a big difference.
Great. I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me here today and for telling us more about the work that you're doing. Let's have you back. Let's check in about a year and see how much further the needle has moved. Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
I've been,
Thanks for having me.
I've been Yeah, my pleasure. Been chatting with Dana Bailey, who's working on behalf of the city to address homelessness and homelessness related issues here in Davis. This is The City Considers. I'm Autumn Labbe-Renault. Thanks so much for tuning in.